Hello, everyone. As you all know, my name is Kaylee Miller, and I am one of the ESOL teachers here at the high school. And today, what we are going to do is take a look at some of the reading strategies that you can use to help some of the ESOL students in your classes. So, we're going to be working on a specific skill, the skill of summarizing, and we're going to take a look at 3 different strategies that you can use to help you teach that skill to some of the ESOL students in your class. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And this way we will go through our presentation. Unfortunately, we could not meet in person. So this is how we will be completing our activity for the day. And you can just watch this video and go through the steps on your own. Actually, before we get started, I want you to make sure you can follow along on the presentation and make sure you have up the links for key assessments that I sent to you. This way you can check out these links and go through them with us as we do this all together, okay? So, like I said, this is for some reading support and strategies for the ESOL students in your class. Now, I took a look, me and the entire ESOL team took a look at some of our data, and that told us the area in which the students needed the most help with. So what we use for ESOL students is the Ohio English Language Proficiency Assessment, also known as the OELPA. This is administered once a year, and this is used to determine the language level for speakers of other languages. So this assessment also is also how students will exit the program. So there are 4 different domains within this assessment, 4 different domains with ESOL students in general that we look at in order to determine their levels of proficiency. So the first is listening, the second is speaking, and then we have reading and writing, okay? So within these 3 levels, there is either emerging, that means they scored a 1 or a 2 in one domain. Progressing would be a 2 or a 3 in a domain, and then proficient is a 4 or a 5. So in order to exit the program, our students must be proficient and they must have 3 5s and 1 4. They can have 1 4 in order to exit. So let's take a look here. Kind of an overview of our population and our scores. We have a total of 42 students that took this WELPA, and this is from 2019. And then proficient scores, we had 8 students who are at a proficient level, progressing 20 students, and emerging we have 14 students. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you this data laid out so you can see here are the names of our students, their grade level, and then it tells you their score in each domain: listening, speaking, reading, writing, and then all the way on this side we have their proficiency level. So this is where this information came from. And like I said, this came from OELPA scores in 2019. So let's take a little bit closer of a look. Here is all of that information kind of laid out for you in graph form. So this is, whoops, our listening scores. So you can see majority of the students are intermediate proficiency level, and several beginning, about 14, and advanced, we only have about 5 students who are proficient in listening. For speaking, beginning and intermediate level is pretty even, about 16 beginning and 17 or 18 intermediate, and then advanced under 10. Reading, we have about 21 students who are at the beginning level, and also pretty high a number at the intermediate level, about 17 is what it looks like. And then for our advanced students, we have less than 5 students who scored advanced. So reading is definitely an area of struggle for our students, as you can see based on this data. Writing, um, we have a high number of beginning as well, about 16, 17, maybe actually closer to 18, intermediate 10, and then advanced, we have almost 15 students. So based on this data, our team met and we determined which area needed the most assistance with our students. And reading, it was clear that the data showed that our students struggle with reading. And after considering and talking to the ESOL team, comprehension is what our ESOL students struggle with the most within reading. So comprehension is a complex process, and at its core, it's based on summarizing. So restating content in a manner that highlights the most crucial information. And summarizing is something that is very critical to understand texts in every subject area. So that is why I chose the skill of summarizing to focus on for comprehension understanding for this presentation, because that is what is most needed in all content areas. Understanding those key details and being able to summarize them from texts that they read in their core classes. So we're going to go ahead and talk about why it is such a critical comprehension skill. It helps students to clarify ideas. It familiarizes students with the text structure, reviews essential terminology that is needed to understand the text, and it helps students to make sense of a text. Okay, so that is why summarizing is so important. Now, we're going to focus on 3 different strategies that can help ESOL students to summarize. So the first one we're going to look at today is connecting prior knowledge. This is very beneficial for ESOL students, and I will tell you why very soon. We're going to talk about understanding text structure and how knowing text structure can help students to comprehend the text better, and also asking and answering questions while you're reading to help really find those key ideas and check for comprehension. So let's get to it with prior knowledge. Why is prior knowledge so important? One of the main barriers that ESL students face with comprehension is limited vocabulary and lack of background knowledge. So the knowledge a reader brings to a text is a principal determinant of how that text will be comprehended. It is so important that these students do activate some of that knowledge that they already know or receive background information on topics or vocabulary terminology before reading a text, because it's a new language and that is a huge deterrence of understanding comprehension. Prior knowledge about a topic influences what a reader remembers, and it improves memory for new information. So it improves coding skills, it has useful associations, and it is decision making. So what that means is helping to understand what the useful approaches are. So there are several different ways that you can activate ESOL students' prior knowledge. So one thing you can do is tap into their native language, use cognates, use Google Translate or keywords, provide examples and visuals for your students. This will really help them to better understand and comprehend what they are reading. The second thing you can do is design culturally familiar experiences. So it's important that you have understanding of the student's cultural background, and this can help you to provide them with examples that they can relate to. And again, that is going to help them activate that prior knowledge if they're reading about familiar experiences. The third way that you can activate prior knowledge is through concept mapping. So this integrates students' prior knowledge and their new knowledge, and it also shows organized relationships between the concepts. So we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about concept mapping. So how to use them. How can you use them? You can use them for a brainstorming activity. So you can have students brainstorm ideas and terms related to an assigned topic. You can use it for organization, organize these ideas from general or specific. cluster ideas or terms that are similar to one another. You can use it as a map, and students can write the terms and the appropriate cells of the concept map, and you can arrange and add these different cells as needed. And the last way you can use concept mapping is through connections. So draw arrows or lines to connect the cells that contain words that are related, and words or phrases can be written along these lines to explain the relationships between each of the cells. Okay, so those are some different examples of how you can use it within your class. Now let's talk about when to use concept mapping. So they're very versatile and they can be used at almost any grade level and for any content area. So you should use them to help students organize ideas while reading a story, a novel, an article, a passage, a text, anything that you're reading really. During guided practice, so sections of lessons so students can synthesize the information that was just covered, and as a closing activity to help students review what they learned in that lesson, also before a unit to help access that prior knowledge. And they can be used as an assessment tool or to check for understanding. So lots of different times that you can use them and for lots of different things. So let's look at some examples, and we're going to take a few minutes here and make our own concept map. So first, here's an example of what a concept map looks like. This one is very basic. So as you can see, you have your main idea and then your concepts that relate and then branch off, kind of like a tiered concept here. And students are connecting what they know with different associations and different things that they are learning. So this is just a basic example of a concept map. And now we're going to watch a video on Lucid Charts, which is the resource that we're going to be using soon, that you can use to make concept maps in your class with your students. So let's watch this video quickly.
Create a mind map to expound on a single idea to create a web of thoughts, innovations, and conclusions, all without ever using a mouse. To get started building your mind map, first open the Shape Manager. Click plus Shapes in the toolbox or press the M key. Once the Shape Manager has opened, scroll down to the Other category and toggle on the Mind Mapping Library, or search for it here at the top of the Shape Manager. Before exiting, press Save. Select a mind map shape and drag it onto the canvas. Notice that the text is immediately highlighted to enter custom text. Press Enter when finished. Now that you are starting to get your ideas on the canvas, use keyboard shortcuts to build out your mind map without interrupting your flow. Press Tab to create a child idea, Enter to create a sibling idea, F2 to edit text, Shift plus Enter will create a carriage run, which essentially creates a new line of text within your shape. Arrow keys will help to quickly navigate through your map. And lastly, press Z to collapse or expand children ideas. To see a list of mind map shortcuts, simply go to the Documents page, select Templates, Mind Map, and Blank Mind Mapping. This will open a new canvas with the mind map library already imported, a list of your keyboard shortcuts, and you will be ready to roll. After a few minutes of practice, you will be building out mind maps faster than you ever have before. Once you have your diagram built out and are wanting to customize a layout, click and drag the parent of a branch to move a section of the map. You can also collapse children branches of a node by selecting the parent node and either pressing Z or clicking the symbol in the bottom right corner of the node. If you're wanting a more automated solution, select Auto Layout from the Shape Options panel to reorganize all branches back to the center. Now that our mind map is laid out the way that we'd like it, we can customize the color of each mapping level with the Shape Options panel. A quick tip and trick for you: for maximum mind mapping space, try full screen mode. Lucidchart also gives you the ability to import and export mind maps. If you have an existing outline, you can easily turn it into a Lucidchart mind map by selecting File, Import, and Mind Maps. Lucidchart will open a wizard which will allow you to import one of two methods. Either select a text file or copy and paste a text outline. Lucidchart also quickly converts any mind map you've created in Lucidchart into a plain text or HTML text outline. To export your mind map, navigate to the mind map shape library in the toolbox on the right-hand side of the screen and select Export. You then can copy and paste your HTML code or plain text as desired. When you have a great idea, write it down. When you want to map it out, use Lucidchart.
All right, so those were some tips and tricks for how to use Lucidchart. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at how to do it ourselves. And I would like you to try to create one on your own. If you go to our links, that was the example. Let me close these out. If you go to our links here, our first one for our first skill, connecting prior knowledge, here's Lucidchart. Just click on it. And you can explore Lucidcharts on your own. So you might have some already. Just click new and a Lucidchart document, and it will open up for you. And like she said, you have all of these different shapes that you can choose from to create your own. You can also, I think there's a way to use templates. I think they have templates. I'm sorry, that was what I was looking for. So up here, we'll just say Lucid, or we'll say PD for summarizing example. And you just, like she said, just grab and put it. So if you wanted to do something, one that I use a lot with my students is like word mapping. So if they get a new vocabulary word, they write the word here and then think of different words that come to mind. I'm just going to leave that blank. Different words that come to mind when they are working on their vocabulary. And we'll add one down here. Usually do like 4 or 5. Could have copied and pasted. That would have been easier. Oops, guess not. We'll undo. And here. So super easy to do. Make sure they're lined up. And then add in your arrows. And you can like move them however you, oops. I'm just trying to move it however you want. Here we go. And this one out, and this one up and up. Okay, so you can play around with that and create your arrows. And then when you're ready, what you can do is what I do to add it to Google Class. I just convert it to a PDF, which is super easy to do. Import Lucid, no, not there. Export, sorry, right here, export, and then I just export it to PDF. This one isn't great. Like she said, check that back here. If you check for this one, you can see what it's going to look like on the whole page by going back. So here you have your PDF. I just download it and save it. And then if you want to add it to Google Class, it's super easy to do. Just go to your Google Class and add it as a file right here on Google Class. Any of your classes, you guys all know how to do that. And then I just have my students can use Kami to fill it out, or also you can just share the link and have them work right in Lucidchart. So it's sort of up to you. So I would like for you to now go ahead and pause this video, or maybe at the end of the video, if you want to keep watching, try to make your own Lucidchart for something related to your content that you could use in your own class. Try it out and see how it works with your students. And then you can let me know how that goes for you. Okay. So moving on, now we're going to talk about text structure. That's our second strategy to help our ESOL students comprehend and summarize. So why is text structure important? Authors of informational text use devices to present and organize information in ways that will help readers better understand it. So this presentation of the information is what is known as text structure. The structure of a text provides the reader with information that helps them identify important information within a text. So understanding that structure of it is going to help them understand the information and type of text that they are reading. So there are 5 types of expository text structure. We have description, compare and contrast, sequence, cause and effect, and problem and solution. So actually teaching these different types of text structure to your students helps them to know what they are reading about and helps them to better comprehend it if they can determine the type of text that it is. So one way to teach text structure is through questioning. Okay, so here we have our 5 types of text structures and questions that you can ask or teach your students to ask themselves that will help them to know what type of text structure it is. So for example, description text. What is the author describing? What are details used to describe it? Compare and contrast. What objects, concepts, or categories are being compared? How are they the same and how are they different? Sequencing is our third type of text structure. You can ask, what is the first thing that's happened? What is next? And what is last? So just getting them to sequence events that happen in order. Cause and effect, what are the cause and related effects? What happened? Why did this happen? And then problem and solution. You can ask questions such as, what are the difficulties or questions? What were the possible actions to solve them, and how was it solved or might it be solved, and what were the consequences of the options, what were the results of the options. So questioning can help you to teach the different types of text structure. Another way to teach text structure is through graphic organizers. Graphic organizers are really great because they provide space to record structure-related information. They illustrate how information can be organized in a meaningful way, and teachers can provide empty ones or students can create their own. So let's take a look at some examples of different graphic organizers for text structures. Okay, it's going to take a while to load, of course. So our first one is a description text. It's not loading. But basically, I believe it just has something in the middle and it's answering some different questions about what the character is doing, what are the accomplishments, that sort of thing. Compare and contrast, you can use a matrix. So it would look something like this, where you have a chart, attribute number 1, and you're comparing and contrasting. You can use a linear string to help with sequencing. So listing orders step by step, showing that they're connected. And then for compare and contrast and problem and solution, you can use side-by-side text boxes. Maybe it would look something like this. Okay, let's see if our first one loaded. Nope, still not. A topical nest. But what it is, it's kind of like those bubbles, very similar to the lucid charts that we just made. Could be used for description text, and we did see an example of that. So those are some different types of graphic organizers that you can use. I'm sure you're pretty familiar with those. The third thing that you can use is note or paragraph frames. So provide students with simple framework for recording structure-related information from text. So some sentence frame examples. Here we have a little picture, but let me show you some examples of sentence frames. And these are very, very beneficial for ESL students because they help them to get their sentences started. They help them with their writing and organize their ideas. A lot of times they just don't know where to start. They have the ideas in their head. They can't get them down on paper. So for sequencing, here's a sentence frame. Here's how this is made. What happens first? What happens second, third, and finally? Okay, so that would be for sequencing. For description, you could use frames like, I learned a lot about this. What I learned this, I learned this. Another fact I learned is this. The most important thing I learned was this. Okay, that would be for description. And then compare and contrast. Here are lots of different examples. So if you're comparing things, the similarities by comparing and comparison of. So you could just use these frames um, to help them compare and contrast similarities versus differences. One similarity and difference is blank. On the other hand, they differ blank. And same for problem and solution. Here are some examples. The problem is blank because blank. So these are sentence frames. And like I said, they're very, very helpful for ESL students and learning and getting their ideas down. It helps them to kind of take their notes down and get them started, like I said. So I think that that would be the best way to help modify some assignments for your ESL students. So what I have here is a website that allows you to generate these sentence frames, and you can create their own. I have it in a link here, and I also have it, I also have it in the same link here for links for key assessment, paragraph note frames. Both of these will take you right here. Okay, so this is a really great resource. These are just written in. Yours shouldn't have that in there. You don't need an account or anything like that. You can, and it will give you a little bit more. If you have the subscription, it'll give you a little bit more options, obviously like everything, but this is just a free one that's super easy. All you have to do is you can do fill in the blanks. Like, hello is what you say when to greet someone. And then, oops. And then once you click out, I don't know why I did that. Once you click out, you can just click on the words that you want to be your blanks. Or for the sentence frame, like the first thing that happened was, and then because, I'm gonna spell because right. And then they can fill in the blanks, or you can have an actual word for it. And then I think you can get rid of the words in your word bank if you don't want a word bank. So that's why I'm saying this. So I just did this because I just want it to be a blank and I don't want it to be a part of the word bank. So I'm going to click on those. Okay. To get rid of them. Actually, I cannot. To greet someone. And then what you would do, yeah, I can't click on those. I wonder if I can get rid of the word blank. Here. And then when you're ready, okay, so we won't. The first thing that happened was I need to edit. Here, we go back and edit it and make mistakes like me. We all do, right? That happened was she said hello because She was greeting her friend. We'll just keep it the same. So this is a great resource for how can what she said. Hello. Because she was greeting friend. Okay. And then when you're ready, here are your word banks. You can generate your worksheet right here, generate worksheet. And it will give you a word bank and here. And you have your own, you can save it. Word bank options here. I know you could change it. Top right, bottom, you can put it anywhere, hide. So hide, hide, hide. Okay. All right, well, it's not letting us hide it. Let's try again. Word bank options. I don't know why it gave us 2. There we go. So you can hide it. I'm sorry, I forgot that. You can hide it once you're here. And then you have your worksheet for you. Okay. Save as PDF, create PDF, and click this link to download your PDF. Here it is. And you can create your own worksheet. So you can do those blanks like I showed you earlier. And then just get rid of the word bank so it doesn't have those words so that they can do a little more writing, or you can have the word bank, and this would be great for activities or things like this, and then put it on Google Class or do whatever you wanted with it, okay? So this is a great resource that you can use to help create those sentence frames or paragraph frames. So just like last time, you can go ahead and pause now and try it out for yourself. I would like for you to think about something that you're working on right now in your class and how you can create an activity and use these sentence frames or paragraph frames to help support your ESOL students. So go ahead and pause and try that now, or wait until the end to go through them all. Okay, our last reading strategy is questioning. So questioning is very important during the comprehension process because it allows students to be monitoring and assessing what they're reading as they're doing it. So questioning is an interactive process that aims to engage students in the learning process and draw a thoughtful response. Questions promote learning and act in direct and indirect ways to improve student understanding of subject matter that is being taught, and various forms of self-questioning strategies improve literal and inferential comprehension for students that range in age and ability levels. So I think we can all agree that questioning is a very important skill to know for comprehension. So what are some different types of questions that can be asked? Some different types of questions to ask include main idea, which asks students to identify the central theme and help students to be aware of the relationships between details. Detail questions, which ask for bits of information from the material. They're typically easy to find and construct. So very easy, just very specific, look back, find the answer right in the text. Vocabulary questions ask for the meaning of words, encourage students to use context clues. This is a very important one for ESOL students because, as we know, vocabulary is an area they struggle quite often. Inference questions. These require students to dig a little bit deeper where the answer is typically not directly stated. Another type of question, sequencing questions, which require knowledge of events to be put in order. Evaluation questions typically require students to make judgments about materials based on inferencing, but depends on more than an innovative applied in the story. Okay, So they have to dig a little deeper and think a little bit more. And then creative response questions ask students to go beyond the material and create new ideas based off of the ideas that they already read. So these require quite a bit more knowledge and are typically more comprehensive, require students to create their own ideas and really think outside of the box. So it's clear that there are different depth of knowledge levels here that are required for questioning. So main idea, detail, and vocabulary question are going to be like DOK 1 and 2 questions. Whereas, sorry, get rid of that. Whereas some of the inferencing questions, evaluation questions, and creative response questions are going to be a depth of knowledge that's like a 2 or a 3, where it requires a little bit more thinking and a little bit more understanding of the text and making those connections. So it's really important to ask each of these types of questions in order to really help really help students understand and think critically about what they're reading. So now let's talk about when you should ask questions. You should be asking questions to your students and having them either ask themselves um, and answer them before reading, during reading, and after reading. So it's very important to question students before they are reading, especially ESOL students, because it helps them activate prior knowledge and start making predictions. You can also do things like picture walks, and this is where you would also give them some of that background knowledge if they did not have it. You could do it during reading, where students read and the teacher should ask the main idea, sequencing, vocabulary, and inferencing questions. This is just checking their comprehension. These answers are found right in the text. And then after reading, this would be like a reflection activity, and you would typically be asking your evaluative and creative response questions after reading. All right, so now what we're going to do is think of our own questions. So I want you to think of a topic you are reading about right now in your class. And based on this topic, we're going to think of some different types of questions that you could ask your students that fall under each category. Okay, so we're going to use Jamboard. I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with it or if you have used Jamboard before, but it is such a great resource to collaborate, and you can do it with your students where everyone can kind of answer questions and put their ideas on the same page and see their classmates' responses and things like that. So again, I have the link here in our presentation, and I also have it right here for 3 questioning Jamboard, and you can click on this link to post your response. So depending on when you're watching this and when you get to this activity, depends on how many examples that you'll see from your coworkers. So on the first page, we have main idea questions. So for example, a main idea question would be, in this passage, the author's main purpose is, okay? And then if you want to add, you can add a sticky note, you can add a text box. So if you want to add a sticky note, you just click it and then type. This is the easiest way. You can make it whatever color you want. I love pink. I'm going to make mine pink. What was the text mostly about? Or maybe it's like key details, something like that. I encourage you guys to be creative. And if you want to be specific, you can make it specific to something you're working on in your class. Just add them here, and everyone will be able to see all of the different responses. Next, we have detail questions. So here's some examples of detail questions. Who's the main character in the story? How many teeth does a shark have? This would be in a book about a shark. So again, a sticky note. Let's make it a different color this time. Who is the main character would also be a detail question. Save and add. Cancel. And you can put yours wherever you'd like. You can make it bigger, smaller, whatever you want. And this is, like I said, this is why I love Jamboard, because you can use this with your class. You can all be doing it together and people can be collaborating, or you can do it as an activity like this and see your classmates or coworkers' responses. Um, evaluation questions, are great for inferencing and digging a little bit deeper. Here's our example. We can infer the author would agree with which side of the argument. See if you can think of some evaluation questions on your own or inferencing questions and put them in a sticky note, and let's see what we come up with. I'm excited to see what you guys put and the questions that you come up with. So again, go ahead. You can either pause and do that now, or you can go back and do it at the end. Actually, I think this is the end. So just in case before we go, I do want to show you Jamboard. If you're not familiar, the only link that I have is to this specific Jamboard, but I will show you if you just go to your Google Waffle and your application. Just kidding, gonna erase it. You can add, if you go here for text, you can add title, subtitle, things like that. Okay, and add words, and then create your template and have your students do this as well. We'll just say practice. Okay, and then just share this link with your students in Google Class, and they can all jam on the Jamboard. So that is that. Those are our resources. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to contact me at any time. You have my email. I also ask that you take just a couple of minutes after you go through each of these activities, and I have a little Google Doc. If you could take this survey for me, that would be wonderful. I hope this was helpful and that you have learned some reading strategies to help your ESOL students learn comprehension skills in your class. So thank you for watching and listening and participating. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your year, and don't hesitate to reach out at any time. Thanks.